The Prime Theresa May has called a snap election to be held on the 8th of July 2017, despite having repeatedly denying that she would do such a thing pretty much right up until the announcement, to the surprise of many of her own MPs. However, May has shown that she's got no problem making U-turns or lying if she can get her claws on more power. The PM, in an authoritarian move, didn't even tell her MPs that she was going to announce a general election. Perhaps she was inspired by Irduan's power grab in Turkey. She's oddly complained that the election has to be called because of politics being played in Parliament. She said yesterday, "At this moment of enormous national significance, there should be unity here in Westminster, but instead there is division. The country is coming together, but Westminster is not. Here's some news for you, May. Parliament is there to hold you to account and challenge you. Can you expect a vote of 51.9% to exit the EU to create support for a hard Brexit? Listen to the way the Prime Minister speaks, and you'd think she had an overwhelming majority for Brexit. I would also really like to know where her evidence is for the country coming together over Brexit. We certainly haven't seen it." Many seem to be thinking, with a massive lead in the polls, that the Conservative Party will be set to increase its majority, making it more likely May will get her hard Brexit through Parliament. Apparently, she came to this decision while on holiday with her husband, who works for big business interests. Who knows how he might have influenced her decision interest. Watch our video about him after this video. This shows May believes she's at a high point and is opportunistically trying to grab as big a majority as possible, despite the Fixed Term Parliament Act, which is supposed to stop such things. However, as the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats support the election, she will be able to get around the Fixed Term Parliament Act. Hopefully the Conservatives will not cheat in this election after the battle bus fiasco, but continuing in her record of authoritarianism and avoiding responsibility, she's already refusing to take part in any televised election debates. These debates should still go ahead, and an empty podium should be used to represent her. That's all she is. Labour is really struggling due to the non-stop attacks in the traditional press and the plots to get rid of the leader from centre and right of the party. Corbyn, who's been elected twice to Labour membership in a short time period due to a coup attempt, will have to do something special to avoid getting steamrolled by their competition. The problem with Jeremy himself is that he's too nice. Before he was elected, people kept complaining that Parliament and party leaders were disrespectful to one another and unprincipled power grabbers. But before he was elected, people kept complaining that Parliament and party leaders were disrespectful to one another and unprincipled power grabbers. But when a nice, genuine, respectful man like Corbyn gets elected, even hardcore Labour supporters complain he's weak. The man can't win. If you're a so-called die-hard Labour supporter and you vote for May, you were never a real Labour supporter in the first place, and you betray the working class in this country. The Conservatives have never and will never look after the interests of the working class. Apparently some Labour politicians are looking forward to being defeated in the election, rid of Corbyn, which is pathetic in an election that has so much riding on it. Despite what they say, people in the UK don't want to look at their policies, but care about a so-called strong managerial type leader. Liberal Democrats will hope to make a comeback after being punished in the last election and going into coalition with the Conservative government. The Lib Dems with their leader Tim Farron is against a hard Brexit, which would be more in line with the near 50-50 vote in the EU referendum. Farron said that if you want to avoid a disastrous hard Brexit, if you want to keep Britain in the single market, if you want a Britain that is open, tolerant and united, this is your chance. The Lib Dems seem to be offering the only solid opposition to the Conservative Party, which could decide the course of the election, due to the UK's rubbish first-past-the-post electoral system. Despite the bashing they get for joining in coalition with the Conservative government before the last election, they did prevent the Conservatives from being as extreme as they have been with the majority they currently have. People who still hold this against them seem to forget how unpopular the Labour government had been under Gordon Brown after the financial crisis. If the Conservatives and Liberals had not formed a government, another election would have been held and the Conservative majority would probably have been returned, which would have meant the Conservatives would have been in power for many years, being able to implement extreme right-wing policies. However, Tim Farron's religiosity, which means he's against things like gay marriage, may prove a stumbling block. The Scottish National Party will apparently not vote either way for the election, but they will be hoping to solidify their support in Remain voting Scotland, again weakening Labour, as Scotland used to be a place where they would be guaranteed a few seats. The Conservatives, only having a majority of 17 in Parliament, and recent polls suggesting this could increase to a 100-seat majority. This would give May all the authority needed to negotiate and push through an extreme Brexit, which would mean 44% of the UK's exports taking a big hit, which would lead to job losses. Also, the UK would have to align to the violent Trump-led US, effectively becoming the 51st state. You can expect to say goodbye to the NHS, social care, the social safety net, any good public transport, human rights, protection from unfair dismissal, Scotland, possibly Northern Ireland, any prospect of owning a house, and a clean environment, as well as much, much more. As the Green Party are advocating, opponents to the Tories and hard Brexit will have to unite in a progressive alliance in order to win the election and prevent a total betrayal of the country by the Tories. Stop the Tories by voting for whoever is most likely to beat them in your constituency. This is probably the most important election that we will probably ever get to vote in, and will decide the future of the country. We have to fight back against the dodgy right-wing Tory party, which will take us out of Europe to sell the country off to their big business supporters. Everyone must unite to defeat this extreme Tory party.